We're in Burnie, Tasmania, a haven for artists, foodie paradise and beautiful flowers. There's places to stay, cooking near a bridge, but first, Australia's best visitor attraction. In 1833, Opossum Island was chosen for the graveyard of Port Arthur by the Reverend John Manton. Even in death, a strict us and them system was rigorously maintained between free settlers and convicts. Officials, soldiers and their families were given the dignity of a headstone and buried on the high side of the island. Convicts were buried on the lower side and forbidden headstones. During its 40-plus years of operation, the headstone edict was slowly relaxed, with convict gravestones appearing in about 1854. Today, the Isle of the Dead, as it is now known, is a popular part of the Port Arthur experience, with daily guided tours.
What I like about the trip is the magnificent scenery in the bay and the harbour, which we'll see shortly. Magnificent stands of trees around the place. I like talking to the tourists as well, of course, but yeah, I like boats. It's a combination of all three.
We've just come back from the Isle of the Dead tour here at the Port Arthur Historic Site. Now, it's an island that covers about 2 acres. There are several headstones, but there are 1,100 people buried there. So it's a very, very sad place, but it's also a very popular cruise. Out of here, one-way ticket, straight over there. Did it have any effect on you? Any spooky sort of feelings?
Not spooky, but informative for sure. And then gives you an idea of how people lived back there and what life the convicts lived, sort of thing. And even for the boys out there and the convicts, yeah.
What do you think of the fact that it's a 2-acre island and there are 1,100 people buried there?
Oh, it's... yeah, the gravediggers had a tough time.
The late 19th century saw a concerted effort to erase Tasmania's convict past. Port Arthur was renamed Carnarvon and many of its buildings demolished. Today, the Port Arthur Historic Site is ranked Australia's best major tourist attraction. The Port Arthur Penal Settlement began in 1830 as a timber camp. Later, in the 1840s, with a convict population of over 1,100, the original flour mill was converted into a penitentiary. A hospital was added, several churches built, and a number of cottages for both staff and free settlers looked onto tree-lined avenues, gardens, and the waters of the bay. Considering the site's ultimate purpose, it was a strangely picturesque landscape. In 1849, the notorious separate prison was created. The purpose here was intense social isolation and control. To ensure prisoners heard no sound, warders communicated in sign language and patrolled in felt slippers. Solitary confinement lasted 23 hours a day. Exercise was taken alone in a small yard, and dozens of rules and rigid daily routines reinforced the inmates' sense of powerlessness. Many went insane or committed suicide. Little wonder then, the place is a haven for ghosts, goblins, and things that go bump in the night. Now, speaking of experiences, I believe you did the ghost tour?
I did, that was last night.
What did you think of it?
That was really, really good. The tour guide was just on the ball with everything. He really added to the ghost tour and the stories that were told. And certainly it shows that there is a lot more history that goes on rather than just convicts.
Okay. I've heard stories that the mortuary, which I believe the ghost tour takes part.
Yes.
Did you have any experience there in that mortuary?
It's quite an unreal bit of a sensation when you sort of get down there and you realise what went on, and especially when they talk about the experiments as well. But I added a little bit of extra to it. I acted a bit of a fool and had a bit of fun with the door and trying to stop the ghost from getting in. But look, it was a really good experience. The tour guide was so knowledgeable and really added to that eerie, supernatural feel. It occasionally would stick the hairs up on the back of the neck and just to think of what did happen down here and what other people have experienced.
I just heard someone say, isn't it nice? And it is nice. People have gone to a lot of trouble here. Built a fountain, they've laid out these lovely gardens. There's an avenue, tree lined with beautiful old oak trees. Yeah, very pretty. And yet, 12,500 sentences, 7,500 convicts went through this place. So I guess it was nice, very much dependent on who you were. Tasmania has three major population centres on its northwest coast. There's Devonport, there's Wynyard, and there's here in Burnie on a pretty windy, blustery sort of day. Now, 20 years ago, you didn't want to stop in Burnie. It was a place you drove through. And the reason for that was because of the industry that was here. There was a place making dioxide paint down the road. There was a paper mill, and the air just smelled bad. It wasn't a nice place at all. However, that's all changed, and it's been change that's been forced on people because of changing world markets, and it's changed because people have wanted change. They've embraced change. These days, Burnie is a city that produces some of the finest food in the world. It has boutique industry doing all sorts of amazing things, and there's a thriving arts community situated here. It's a city that's undergone, and to some extent is still undergoing, a renaissance. A terrific example of this is what's happening here at the Makers Workshop. Like the name suggests, Makers is home to resident artists working in a variety of disciplines. The whole space is open to the public, and you can look, touch, sample pretty much everything that's going on. This is art in action in its purest form. You could even make your own paper, and given its paper-making history, you may be surprised at the stuff you can put in the pulp.
And then we also do poo paper as well. We've got kangaroo poo, and we also do wombat poo as well.
Now you may remember I mentioned food. Well,
Tracy, this looks wonderful.
It is. It's a wonderful selection of locally made product.
So all of this cheese that we're looking at here is made here in Burnie?
Yes, all of it, at a local milk.
Okay. Tell me what we've got then. What have we got?
Okay, we've got a mild blue here. We've got our Edam. We've got our signature camembert, which has won the best camembert in the world.
Stop right there. The best camembert in the world?
The best camembert in the world.
What, seriously?
Seriously.
All right, well, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm sorry, I've got to do this. Seriously, this has won the best camembert in the world?
Twice.
Really? Oh, it's nice. I'll just try it.
That looks so good.
Oh, yeah.
Superb.
Randolph, the thing that strikes me about this gallery, first impressions are important. It's very big.
Yes, Steve, it's probably one of the bigger regional art galleries in Tasmania.
Now, there's a theme, isn't there? Because Burnie was a paper town, that is reflected in how you collect your artwork, is it not?
It was decided when the gallery opened in '78 that the focus would be works on paper. They're much easier to store and move about.
Do you have exhibitions? Do you bring things in?
We do. We have 20, up to 25, sometimes 30 exhibitions a year. We put those together through our collection, local artists, Tasmanian artists, and then touring exhibitions.
Okay. Have you got a personal favourite, just out of interest? A strange question to ask, but is there something that jumps out at you?
Yeah, I've got a fairly warped sense of humour, I suppose.
I picked that up. Yeah.
So I'm thinking perhaps the Captain Cook lino print by New South Wales artist Roo Hanks on the wall over there. If you have a look at that later, you'll see what I mean.
Galleries are expensive beasts to run, so where does the money come from to support you?
Most of our money comes from the local council, which is very supportive of what we do here, and we get a state government grant through Arts Tasmania. Yes?
Yeah, what's the brag stand for? Go on, tell me.
Burnie Regional Art Gallery, Steve.
as opposed to the Devonport Regional Art Gallery, which is...
Thanks very much. Beautiful job.
One of the reasons I've taken you out here, Georgia, is because the Regional Museum interior is somewhat dark.
Yes.
But that's in keeping with the exhibitions, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. So the Federation Street exhibition, which you looked at earlier, is set at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a winter's evening. So everyone's just lit their lamps, and it gives it a nice glow in
nice
there.
Ambience.
And it's good for the objects, obviously, too. We have to keep the light levels low. The materials used to construct all of those buildings are authentic circa 1900 materials. They were taken from buildings that were being demolished.
Now you've got 3 rooms, that being one of them. The second room is around the settlement, pre-settlement.
Yes.
Yeah. How does that work?
So it's a little bit about what the landscape in the northwest was like before Europeans arrived. And you would have seen some very rare Tasmanian emu eggs. Talks about some of the extremely difficult conditions that the early explorers had to kind of cope with.
You've got the dead dog in there as well?
Yes, the thylacine skin. Unfortunately, the Van Diemen's Land Company, who were the company who originally owned all of this land in Burnie, they were actually the first in Tasmania to introduce a bounty on the thylacines.
Now, you also have an exhibition that changes every 6 months or so. What have you got on at the moment?
We've got a World War I exhibition for the centenary this year.
Very topical,
Anzac, and we've tried to really make that an interactive experience with little smelly boxes and...
I saw that, that's the gas, isn't it?
Yes, phosgene gas and trench foot and all sorts of other nasty things if you're brave enough.
Lee, the Menai is a landmark hotel in Burnie. It goes back a long time.
Yes, it does, Steve. It's been here 60, 65 years and it was the place to be back in those days.
What size are you covering here, do you think? Roughly?
I wouldn't have a clue, but I know we've got 26 bedrooms and a function room that'll take 300 or 400 people, and a bar that'll take 100 or 200 people, and the original 1880s house of Captain Jones is still here, so it's a big property.
Okay. Now it's got a lot of history too. Tell us a little bit about some of these bands that used to play here.
Right, yes, in years gone by they've had Skyhooks, AC, DC, Clapton, those type of bands, of course, back in the 80s. They've had most of the big bands here back then. This was the place to be.
You made an amusing comment to me off camera. What did you say?
Oh, this was the place to come for a fight or a feed or to pick up a girlfriend, yes, in the old days. Yeah.
But it's not like that now. You've made a lot of changes, so tell us about that.
We have. My wife and I, we took over the pub, like we started running it 2 or 3 years ago. We bought the hotel and we spent a lot of money, but we had to look at it, and you can't run bands and that here successfully now because of noise restrictions. So we've turned it into a function centre. So these days, weddings, anniversaries, engagements, birthday parties, football dues, etc., etc.
Yeah, it's a landmark place, a lot of history.
It has got a lot of history, yes, it has, and it's still making history now. People are getting married here, and that's their history into the future.
Today I'm at Richmond, Tasmania, which is the home of the oldest bridge in Australia. It was built by convicts in 1823, and today we're going to cook a very, very simple meal. There's not a lot of ingredients, but it's got a lot of flavour and it's very easy to cook. In fact, this is the lazy girl's guide to cooking. Okay, I'm just going to start with frying up some chicken. So the first thing I'm going to do is toss in a bit of olive oil and heat that up. The chicken I've chosen to cook with is thigh fillet. You can use breast. I like thigh because I think it's got a little bit more flavour. So I'm just going to toss that in the olive oil for a minute. And all I'm doing here is just sealing the chicken, nothing fancy. Your veggies, it's sort of what you like. I've chosen carrots, some onion, some broccoli. Like I've said, not a lot of ingredients, but good quality ingredients. It's really important that the veg is fresh. We're very lucky here in Tasmania. We've got Harvest Moon who grow all their veggies here in Tassie, but you can get them anywhere in Australia. So my chicken's been in there a minute. I'm going to throw in some onion. Now I've chosen a nice red onion because it's got a little bit of flavour, a little bit of sweetness. That's what I like. You can use a brown, but I like red. My chicken's sealed, the onion's softened, and it's gone a little bit clear. And it's now time to start getting a little bit of flavour into the pan. And a real shortcut to getting a lot of flavour in food without a lot of ingredients is alcohol. And this is cider. This one is Spreyton. It's grown here in Tasmania, so we're very lucky, but again, available all over Australia. So the first, all you do is pour it into the pan and you turn your pan up quite high because it's really important to burn off the alcohol. That pan's held its heat beautifully and the sauce is boiled down by about half. This is in a Tompkin pan, who are the largest hospitality importers in Australia. They helped us out with all the pots and pans and all the dishes on the table. My sauce is boiled down by about half and now I'm ready to add my vegetables. Really important that you use nice fresh veggies. I won't be leaving them in too long, only a minute, 2 minutes, because I like my veg quite crisp. Don't want them soggy. Just give it a stir and again, just maybe leave them in, I don't know, a minute or two minutes. This is optional, but gives it a bit of a nice touch. A little sprig of rosemary. Don't need it, but yeah, it just adds a little bit more depth to the flavour. My veg is nice and tender. It's absorbed all that nice fruity flavour. And now it's time for the finishing touch. Lower down your heat. Just before you serve, pour in a nice drop of cream. Personally, I never taste my food before I serve because I might lose my nerve to serve it. Only joking.
It's late afternoon on Tasmania's northwest coast, and this region is known as the food bowl of Tasmania, and it's not hard to see why. Produces some of the best cropping country in Australia, really, and it's because of this soil. It's rich, it's volcanic, it's red, full of nutrients. But what's produced here in abundance are masses of vegetables. Fresh, crisp vegetables. And that is really what this region is known for, and that's why we're here. Neil, the thing that strikes me about this country is it's extremely, well, it looks extremely fertile.
Look, it is. The northwest coast of Tasmania, especially on these red volcanic soils, excellent soil for growing vegetables in. Temperate climate vegetables, which we do, coupled with the closeness of Bass Strait, it gives it a maritime climate, doesn't get too hot or too cold, and the soils don't get waterlogged, it's very well drained, and it's just ideal. We, in our own rights, on our own farms, we grow about 800 hectares of vegetables, and we also get growers in the area to grow a similar amount, 800 to 900.
Okay. What are you producing then? What's coming out of the ground?
Okay, we've got, carrots. Yep, is our biggest crop, and we do that for about 6 months of the year. We have potatoes, onions, both red and brown, broccoli, leeks, pumpkin, Swedes, red beet. This year we did a trial and it was very successful of baby spinach. Yeah. And look, fresh vegetables are fresh, so they're going through minimal processing, but people don't like eating dirty carrots anymore, so we wash them. So they're cooled straight away. That enables the carrots will keep for, well, we ship them to Japan.
It's a very hands-on business in the fact that you've got a lot of people, a lot of employees doing
things. Well,
you know, pulling carrots out of racks. And
yep. Look, a lot of the machines, a lot of the products we handle can be machine harvested, but some can't.
Yeah.
So, we employ about 350 people. In the off season, it gets down to 180, but
okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of work.
It strikes me as a very unusual name, Harvest Moon. So go on, explain it. How did you get that?
It's not. It's a great brand name, but people may recall that years ago this bloke walked on the moon and he took my name and So I've had moon connotations for quite a while, and Harvest Moon had a nice ring to it.
Bryce, you're in a prime waterfront location here in Devonport, aren't you?
Yes, our park is right on the waterfront. We've got the Spirit down on the river there, which is only 5 minutes away. We have the beach, which is right out front there. It's absolutely sensational.
Okay. Now, the cabins vary a little, don't they? They're not all the same.
No, we have spa cabins, we have superior cabins, which look out to the sea.
Yep.
We've got different configurations with double beds with bunks and double, 2 bedrooms with double beds and double beds.
Now you cater for families as well. I noticed you got a lot of play equipment.
Yeah, we cater for families. We have the jumping pillow and the movie room for the kids when it's a bit dark. So, but other times you'll find the kids are out in the sunshine like today.
Now, do you have people that come back to you all the time? Do they?
We have guests coming back all the time. And they know the cabins they like. They know the sites they like, and they'll order those sites and cabins.
Next, it's King Island, in amongst the beaches and shipwrecks. There's golf by the sea. Ian takes us on a tour, and the scenery, take a look, next time on Aussie Holiday.